Hey there, my name is Krystal Everdeen, and today I'm going to show you how to make this solid white bohemian style crochet purse. So the first thing that we're going to make for this project is this mandala circle pattern, and I have a dedicated video that is beginner friendly, go slowly, and in much more detail on how to make this, and I will link that in the description box below, but I'm going to run through it rather quickly in this video just so you get the gist of what you need to do to make this. So I'm using size 4 yarn and a size 5mm hook, and the first thing that I'm going to do, of course, is make a slip knot, but then I'm going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, then go back into the very first chain that I made and slip stitch into it. And now I have this little ball, which is actually a little circle. You just gotta find the middle, and once you find the little opening in the center, then you're going to crochet into it using a double crochet, and then you're just going to continue making double crochets inside of that opening. You're going to make a total of 10 double crochets for the entire first row. And if you're not familiar with what a double crochet is, it is yarn over, through the stitch, yarn over, back through the stitch, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through the last 2 loops. So I just completed my 10th double crochet for the row, and the way I'm going to finish off the row is I'm going to slip stitch into the very first double crochet that I made for the row, and that will complete the row. And that's how I'm going to complete every single row from now on. After I'm done with the last stitch, I'm going to slip stitch into the very first stitch I made for the row, and that's how you complete rows. Now moving on to row number 2, you're going to chain 2, and then you're going to create what I used to call a triple crochet if you've seen my older videos, but it's actually an extended double crochet. And what an extended double crochet is yarn over through the stitch, yarn over back through the stitch, yarn over through 1 loop, yarn over through 2 loops, and yarn over through the last 2 loops. So for this second row, you're going to make 2 extended double crochets per stitch. So every time you come across a stitch of a previous row, instead of just crocheting 1 stitch on top of it as you normally would, you're going to make 2 extended double crochets inside of every stitch. And you need to do this in order for the circle to grow, otherwise the project will start to curl in, and you don't want that. So after you slip stitch into the very first row and complete the second row, then you're going to start on row number 3 by chaining 2 and then creating yet another extended double crochet, but this time you're only going to make 1 extended double crochet per stitch. But once you make an extended double crochet right here, then you're going to chain 1 in between, so it could look like a different stitch. Instead of it being really close together, now the stitches look rather far apart, and they look different even though they're both extended double crochets, but it looks like a variation of stitches, and that's why I did that. So again, for row number 3, you're going to make 1 extended double crochet per stitch, but with a chain in between them. And once you completed row number 3, then you're going to move on to row number 4 by first chaining 2, and then you're going to make another extended double crochet. But this time you're going to make 2 extended double crochets per opening, again like you did the last time, but it is going to look a little bit different. These 2 extended double crochets are going to look like little V shapes inside of each of the openings of the previous row. So yeah, this is my first extended double crochet in the opening, and then this is my second extended double crochet in the opening, and that's what you're going to do for the entire row. And as you can see, they look like little V shapes, kind of. But anyway, after I've completed my very last set of extended double crochets per stitch, I'm going to slip stitch into the very first stitch that I made for the row to complete row number 4. And this is what it should look like so far, something like this. Although it's mostly extended double crochet, you can see that the stitches look pretty different, and that's what I was going for. So most of the stitches are nice and open, so I wanted to do something more solid. So for row number 5, I am making 2 single crochets inside of every opening. So once you've completed row number 5, consisted of 2 single crochets in every stitch, then you're going to slip stitch into the very first single crochet that you made for the row to complete the entire row. And that's what the project should look like so far. And now moving on to row number 6, where you're going to chain 2 and then go back to making double crochets actually. So you're going to make 1 double crochet per stitch. So every single crochet from the previous stitch, you're going to make a double crochet inside of it, and you're going to do that for the entire row. And after you've created all of the double crochets for the entire row, then you slip stitch into the very first double crochet that you made for the row, and you're done with row number 6. And once you're done with row number 6, then you're going to chain 2 and then make another extended double crochet. So for this row, row number 7, we're going to make only 1 extended double crochet per stitch, but with a chain 1 in between. So create your extended double crochet, and once you do, you're going to chain 1 and then move on to the next stitch and make another extended double crochet, and then you're going to chain 1, move on to the next stitch and make another extended double crochet all throughout row number 7. And once you reach the end, you are of course going to slip stitch into the very first stitch that you made for the row, and then you've completed row number 7. So for row number 8, you're going to chain 1 and then create another row of single crochets, but this time instead of making 2 single crochets per opening, you're actually going to alternate from making 2 to making 1, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to make 1 single crochet in that stitch, and then I'm going to make 2 single crochets in this stitch, and then 1, and then 2, and then back to 1, and so on and so forth. Again, alternating from making 2 to making 1 per stitch. And once I reach the end of the row, I'm going to slip stitch into the very first single crochet that I made for the row, and then I'm going to complete row number 8 and now move on to row number 9, which is making loops. So you're going to chain 4 and then skip a stitch, go into the following stitch and slip stitch into it, and then from there you're going to chain 4 and then skip a stitch and then go into the next stitch and slip stitch into it. Then from there you're going to chain 4, skip a stitch, slip stitch into the following stitch, and that will create little loops. And that's all you have to do for the entire 9th row until you reach the end of it and make your very last loop, again comprised of 4 chains, and then skipping a stitch, and then creating your next loop. And that's all it is. So slip stitch into the very last stitch of the row, and this is what it should look like so far. Yay! So we're getting towards the end, don't worry. So for row number 10, you're going to chain 3 at the beginning, and then you're going to make extended double crochets within the loops that you created. So with every loop that you create an extended double crochet on top of it. So it's just 1 extended double crochet on top of every loop, and then once you reach the end of the row, you're going to slip stitch into the first stitch and complete row number 10. And then from here, you're going to make another row of single crochets, and this time it's going to be 3 single crochets per stitch. So every opening that you see, you're going to make 3 single crochets inside of it. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3. And yeah, once you've completed that row, then you have finished row number 11, and finally you're on to the very last row, which is row number 12, and this is going to be a row of scallops. And if you're not familiar with how to make scallops, they're pretty easy. I do have a dedicated video on how to make scallops if you want to watch another beginner-friendly video, but all it is really is going into a stitch and making 5 extended double crochets inside of that one stitch, and that makes a little scallop. And then from there you're going to slip stitch into the next stitch and then create 5 extended double crochets inside of the following stitch. So then you're going to slip stitch, and it should look something like this. And then in the following stitch you're going to create another 5 extended double crochets, and so on and so forth until you have completed the entire row. And once you're done with that, then you're done with the mandala design. Woohoo! Now it's time to move on to the back portion of the bag. Now you can do what I'm doing and just make a solid circle, or you can make another mandala piece. That way both the front and the back of your purse can have that design. But I want there to be a front and a back, so the mandala will be the front, and then this solid portion will be the back. And this solid portion is really easy to make. All you have to do is chain 4 like you did for the mandala piece, and then create a bunch of extended double crochets. So for the first row it's going to be 10 extended double crochets in the center of the circle like the other project was. And once you have completed your 10 extended double crochets inside of that circle, then you're going to complete it by slip stitching into the very first extended double crochet you made for that row. And after you've completed your first row, then you're just going to continue with extended double crochets. So you're going to chain 2 and then create only 1 extended double crochet per stitch. So every stitch that you come across, you only make 1 extended double crochet to complete the entire row. And then once you make your last extended double crochet for this second row, then you're going to slip stitch into the very first extended double crochet that you made for the row in order to complete it. So after you have finished row number 2, then you're going to move on to row number 3, and for row number 3 you're going to chain 2 and continue to make extended double crochets. For this entire piece of the project, it's going to be nothing but extended double crochets, or actually whatever stitch that you want. I just chose extended double crochets, but if you want to use single crochet, that way the project can look more solid and not have so many holes, then that's fine too. But anyway, for row number 3 I made 2 extended double crochets per stitch, and then once I was done with row number 3, then I went on to row number 4 and so on and so forth by only making 1 extended double crochet per stitch. And this may differ depending on your yarn size and which stitch you decide to use, but that's all that I needed to do for the entire rest of the project, just 1 extended double crochet per stitch. However, if you notice that your project is starting to curl up, that means that you need to make more stitches per row. So then I would suggest that you make another row of 2 extended double crochets per stitch and then move back to making only 1 per stitch. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, if your project begins to ruffle or bend, then that means that you're making too many stitches per row. So then I would say cut back on the number of stitches that you're adding to every row. And yeah, that's basically what you need to go by when you're making this circle piece, the solid circle piece. It's just 1 stitch all around, but you kind of have to figure out how many stitches you need to make per row, either to make only 1 stitch inside of every stitch of the previous row, or to double up and make 2 stitches inside of every stitch from the previous row. But yeah, once you have completed that, then you're going to grab a piece of cardboard and cut out the circle pieces. So you're going to measure out the size of your circle pieces and then cut out cardboard circles that fit them. And you're also going to need to cut out a rectangular piece, and what this rectangular piece will serve as is the support for the middle of the bag, because the very first time I ever made a crochet bag, it was just nothing but crochet. There was nothing inside of it supporting it, and when you make a crochet bag with nothing solid or stiff supporting it, then when you put stuff inside of it, it's gonna look all lumpy and weird, and stuff is going to stick out because it's crochet. So it doesn't look very nice when you're trying to carry things and then the crochet purse takes the shape of those things. It just looks really lumpy and weird. So I decided that I needed something to support it, and the best thing that I have so far is cardboard, even though I do want to see if I could find something better than cardboard to use for purses, but for now, cardboard it is. So I'm actually going to unravel this project right after this tutorial, so I'm not going to do everything that I should. I should make 2 pieces per cardboard piece, so I should make this mandala piece for the front and then a solid for the back, and then attach them together with the cardboard piece in between. And then for the back piece of the purse, I should make this solid crochet a circle as well as another one, and then attach those 2 together with the cardboard piece in between. But again, I'm just not going to do that because I'm going to unravel this project and reuse the yarn for my next tutorial. So I'm kind of making it easier for myself to unravel it and saving some time so I could get this out to you guys as soon as possible. So if you're going to make this and you want it to look really nice, make sure that you make a total of 4 crochet circles, 1 mandala, and 3 solid, or 2 mandalas and 2 solid if you want the purse to have 2 sides to it with the mandala. But yeah, a total of 4 circle pieces, and after you have done that, then you're going to move on to make this rectangular piece. And to make the cover for the rectangular piece, you're just going to chain as many chains as you need to cover the width of the rectangular piece, and then you're going to go back on it with your choice of stitch. Of course, I chose the extended double crochet. However, it probably was not the best choice because it's a bigger stitch, which means that there's more space in between the stitches. So I would actually suggest for this portion of the purse to actually use single crochet for this, because you want this to be solid and you don't want the cardboard underneath to show. So yeah, but what you're going to do is you're going to make as many rows as it takes in order to cover the cardboard piece, like so. And you're going to make again 2 of these pieces and then attach them together with slip stitch with the cardboard piece in between. That way all of the cardboard is covered in crochet. But for me, I'm only making one side because yeah, time and need to save the yarn. So now that I'm done with all of these pieces, then I'm going to now put them all together, which is a little bit difficult in my case because it's not completely covered in crochet, but since yours will be covered front to back in crochet, it will be much easier to attach. And if you need a better example of what this should look like, I do have a blog post on how I made my Mickey Mouse crochet bag, and with that one I did everything. I did all 4 circle pieces and both sides for the rectangular piece, and then I attached it, so you could reference that if you need some help, but I'll try to explain it as well as I can. Basically, you're going to grab the rectangular piece and the circle piece and align them so that the rectangular piece is wrapping around the circle piece. And you can start off at the circle piece wherever because it's a circle piece, so there's no like specific spot, but you're also going to start off at the very end of the rectangular piece, and then you're going to attach your yarn, and then you're going to go through both the stitch from the rectangular piece as well as the stitch from the circle piece. You're going to attach them with a slip stitch, and you're going to go all around the circle until the rectangular piece runs out, and then you've attached that side. And now to attach the mandala, it's a little bit more difficult because you don't want to attach them from the scallops because then it will ruin the scallops. You kind of want to go right under the scallop and attach them there. So go through the rectangular piece and then through the bottom of the scallop, and then also slip stitch, and then that's how you attach those two. And once you have gone all around the bag, attaching them with a slip stitch, then the project should look something like this, except much better because that will be filled with crochet and not cardboard. Another thing that you can do if you don't like the cardboard color sticking out, you could also paint the cardboard white or whatever color yarn that you're using in order to hide it, and that'll look great. So the very last thing that we need to do is make straps. And I'm just going to make a simple strap of 200 chains, and once I have made my chain of 200, I'm going to attach it to one side of the bag with a slip stitch, and then I'm going to go back on that chain with a slip stitch just to make the chain a little bit thicker. That way when you use it, it doesn't dig into your shoulder or snap off. This makes the chain a little bit thicker, which means that it'll also be a little bit stronger and hold a little bit more weight, so that's helpful as well. And then once I have gone down the chain with a slip stitch, I'm going to attach it to the other side of the bag and finish off the project. And that's all there is to it. Again, I have a bunch of string sticking out because I'm going to unravel it, but I would normally cut all of the excess string from all of the sides. That way the project could look nice and clean. But yeah, this is the finished product. Yours will look better because you'll have more crochet pieces, and I promise you that I will make another crochet bag that has all of the proper steps taken to make it look beautiful. This is the first one, kind of like the prototype. And if you're wondering why in the world I am unraveling this project, even though it looks good and would look even better if I actually put the time into making it the proper way, it's because I don't want a fully white bag because I know it's going to get dirty. So I'm actually going to repurpose the yarn from this project and put it into another purse project. However, I'm going to use a different color and also add white to it, so it's going to be a two-tone kind of style, and it's going to look really great, and I'm really excited for it, so stay tuned for that as well. And I also have a ton of other crochet projects that I am really looking forward to sharing with you. So I just wanted to say thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, found it helpful, entertaining, or interesting, please help me out by giving this video a thumbs up, and also click that red subscribe button if you have not already, so I can see you next time. Bye!